Everybody, Questwise back again at you today, and today we're going to talk about a new series of videos that I'm going to be conducting. They're going to be kind of hit or miss. They're not going to be like an every week kind of thing, but it's something I want to do to support the street level superhero role playing, which is something that's very near and dear to my heart. I love superhero role playing, but I do love a little bit of the grittier side, and thankfully, and I'm very highly honored to have been a part of writing a few of these games as well too, and contributing to the hobby a little bit in the street level superhero type of role playing game that you guys can play at your tabletop. And what I'm going to do with this series is talk about street level heroes and the adventures that you can run with them using a variety of different things, using the complete Vigilante Hack, or, well, these aren't really much available anymore because it was part of a Make 100 project, but the Vigilante Hack is still available through Bloat Games, and also the brand new Vigilante City, which was just extremely, stupendously, awesomely, successfully kickstarted. That just ended as well too. So that's coming out soon, and this will be a nice sort of primer into Vigilante City and what you can expect from it, as well as to hype you up for when that game actually gets released and it actually hits into your grubby little hands, and what you can do to run cool superhero vigilante adventures. So let's get started. First of all, today I want to talk about what it is to be a vigilante. What it is to be a hero, the making of a hero, the origin story of a hero. Every hero has an origin story. It's sort of just the background of your character. Why did they become a hero? Why did they become a vigilante? There's a motivation behind every hero that sort of makes them who they are. What sort of forms them? What drives them to do the things that they do? It's not a normal thing for a person, an average everyday person, to take up the mantle of being a vigilante and going out and fighting crime. There has to be sort of that trigger. There has to be a reason in your background, in your history, that sets you upon that path. It's not like I'm going to be sitting here today and be like, you know what, tonight I'm going to go out there and kick some villain ass. I just don't have the resources for it. I don't really have that motivation. There's not a drive behind me, some kind of thing to happen. So what's the hero's motivation? So when you're creating a hero for Vigilante Hack or Vigilante City, the first thing you should probably do is figure out what their motivation is. What is their origin story? Is it to fight crime? Do they live in an area where crime is at an all-time high and they feel oppressed by that sort of crime, or they have loved ones or neighbors around them that are being oppressed by this high level of crime, and they feel that they have the resources to maybe stop it, or to maybe drive it away for a time to make life a little bit better? Is it to eradicate a villain? Is there one particular villain, or that has henchmen, or just a bad dude in your neighborhood or your city that is driving bad things? Maybe you have a personal connection to the villain. Maybe your character they're related. Maybe they are a character from, or a person from your character's past. Maybe an old school buddy or something. And you feel it's your duty to go out and stop this villain. There's some sort of connection between your character and that villain that makes you want to go and end their reign of terror. There's also to restore order. Maybe the city that your character is living in, or the town, or the country. It's true when you play in a Vigilante City and you're playing Vigilante Hack, you're kind of, I don't want to say you want to go statewide. Because it's street level, you're kind of like bringing it down to more of a city type level. We're not talking about heroes like Superman that can fly from New York to Los Angeles in an hour, or less than that. We're not talking about the people like the Flash, although to some degree who can travel great distances in a matter of seconds. we're talking about, grittier street level type things of maybe being the hero of a city. And so maybe there's a portion of your city or a portion of your town that order has been upset. Maybe the police force is disorganized or corrupt, and so you as a vigilante and your other players, the other characters as vigilantes, have decided to go and restore that order and maybe bring order back to a place that's lawless. And another reason for becoming a vigilante and stepping out to be a hero would be a personal vendetta, to get personal revenge. Maybe it's something in your past that has, or your character's past, that has created this sort of void in your life that you feel that you must go and seek revenge against those who had done you and your family wrong. And then we'll get into some of those archetypes of who those people are later on, and what type of characters that you can emulate in Vigilante City and Vigilante Hack. So there's a couple things to think about once you've created your sort of your origin story. You've created your sort of background for your character. There's a couple of things you have to think about, and a lot of this falls upon the game master as well too, but a lot of it, if the player brings that to their character along with it as well too, creates a much more fulfilling game. And what I mean by that is, you've created a hero and you've created their origin story and their background, but where do you want to go from there? What in their motivation drives their story forward? And as a player, bringing that to their character can help the game master create some very, very interesting stories as well too. So if you don't know anything about the Vigilante Hack or the Vigilante City that had just been successfully kickstarted by Bloat Games, I'll put some links down below to some videos that you can watch that talk about what those are. But in brief, the Vigilante Hack is actually based on the Black Hack, which is an OSR sort of hack with some twists that was created by David Black, and I'll put a link to that down below to where you can find the original Black Hack as well too, which is a fantasy version that has some unique twists to it. Vigilante City is the Kickstarter that we just completed over at Bloat Games with a great team of collaboration. You're not gonna, when it hits the public shelves, if you didn't get a chance to hit the Kickstarter, you're gonna want to get a copy of this. So the great team of collaborators that I was honored to play a very small part in, but it was a great joy to be working with all these great people. But that's based on basically like original OSR D&D, like the original D&D rules. So if you've ever played any form of D&D, any D20 system type game, you're going to be very familiar with how the rules work. So very rules light, doesn't get in the way of the storytelling at all. And that's what I mean about this part here, about bringing a motivation to your character and what their sort of ongoing saga is, because the rules are light enough that they're not going to get in the way of storytelling. So if you bring sort of this sort of saga to your character, it's going to create much more narrative and beautiful storytelling, between a collaboration between the game master and your table of players. So now that you have your origin story, where are you going to go with that? Where do you envision your hero being in the future? Do you envision them defeating the villain and everything's back to sunshine and roses, or what's that sort of saga of getting to that place and playing those things out? So there's that sort of idea of a hero's journey, of going from a coming of age story, of going from a zero to a hero, and what is that sort of progression? Because when you first start with these stories, your hero is just a very ordinary person, a very basic person. Now in Vigilante City, there's the option to play characters that start with special gifts, be it a scion or a mutant or what have you, a magic user. Kind of those things exist, but you're still sort of a first level character. You're still a character who is very new to the whole vigilante world and the crime fighting scene, and that is that progression of growing into a much bigger hero, and using your friends and your allies to help you achieve those goals. So you want to kind of think about your character's sort of ongoing heroic journey as well. And there's some highs and lows of vigilantism. What is right, what is wrong? In these games, we're playing street level superheroes, but there comes a time when you're playing these games and you're creating these stories that you have to tell yourself that you're a vigilante, that you're fighting outside the law. Because why? Is it because your character believes that the law enforcement has their hands tied by the law, and that there are just certain things that they can't do, and that it's a vigilante's job to sort of step in and help? Is it that the villains are beyond the capabilities of normal people, and maybe you've studied these types of, you might be a normal human, but your opponent, your villain, your adversary might be somebody who has sort of super heroic powers that's beyond the normal capabilities of normal people. And maybe things like if you look at characters like Batman, even though they are simple, they're regular people, they have access to technology that allows them to fight villains who might be supernatural or have supernatural type abilities. So, at what point, what is your sort of mental angle from your character into why you're a vigilante and why you feel that you're the hero that everybody needs? And so there's that sort of like mental awareness that you have to have about your character as well too, and why what you're doing is the right thing. And maybe at the end of the day, it's the not right thing. And maybe your character has that sort of duality in their in their makeup, and that maybe a Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. That at one point what you're doing is the right thing to do, but then you feel guilty for the crimes that you've committed or the people that you've hurt in the long run, even though those people may have been doing bad things. Is your crime fighter, is your superhero maybe a pacifist? Maybe they don't hurt anybody. Maybe they simply go and create situations in which the police and law enforcement can show up and do their jobs and arrest people. If you want to take this to a much darker level, depending on how gritty you want to get into these games, what happens if, as a pacifist character, you turn over somebody to the police who are then brutalized by these corrupt police officers? There's a great amount of storytelling, and I can't wait to do this entire series. So today we're just kind of focusing on sort of character origin and background, but I think there's going to be a whole wealth in this series of things we're going to talk about to enhance your game and make things a little better. Now, there are some very notable vigilante heroes out there on the market today, and I could go on for hours listing off these different heroes from comic books and pop culture and movies and stuff, but today I wanted to give you a little bit of a feel of the kind of characters that you can create using the Vigilante Hack and Vigilante City role-playing games. First of all, let's picture Batman. Okay, we have a person who is fighting out of sort of revenge and the idea of restoring order to a city that is now lawless and corrupt. But he's also seeking revenge for his lost parents. But the kicker to Batman is that he is not only a genius, but he also has the backing of a huge corporation. He's rich. He's super rich. So he has the capability to and money to be able to create and buy these technologies that he can use to fight these villains. There's Daredevil. Interesting character, pretty dark, a blind character who's created, his heroism comes from the idea that he was blinded and that his other senses are now heightened, and by day, here's that cool duality between in your character and kind of balancing act as well too. By day, Matt Murdock is a lawyer. By night, he's Daredevil. So what he's doing is illegal and is completely contrary to his day job. So interesting duality there, something that you can kind of emulate in these games as well too. The Punisher, outright, utter revenge. Not letting people suffer the things that you have done in the past with no regard to safety or whatever. Like, if you have an enemy that has done wrong in your eyes, you obliterate them. There's no sort of like oh, I'm sorry, here's, I'll pass you off to the police, you'll take due process. No. Punisher is judge, jury, and executioner all in one. So there's that sort of hardcore kind of vigilante that you can build as well, too, if you want just outright vigilante justice. We have Casey Jones from the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, one of my all-time favorite characters. Here is a guy who's just a tenant in a building, and he's sick of the shit that's going down around him, and puts on a hockey mask, grabs a baseball bat, and goes out to met out some justice. Cool vigilante character who is just the everyman. He's like just a dude in an apartment building who's been fed up with the crime that's going on in his neighborhood. And at times he might be in way over his head, but he's a pretty smart dude. He has lots of street smarts. He knows the land. He knows the people in the areas that he lives in. He knows the city, and that he uses that as his benefit. So, cool idea there, too. The other one I want to touch on is the Crow. Cool idea for a vigilante is that the fact that you've been killed. The Crow, as a character, is sort of somebody who has been the victim of a crime and has been murdered. But you're given a second chance to come back and to exact your revenge. And the Crow is very much a revenge story. The idea that he's given a chance to come back. Excuse me. He's given the chance to come back. Excuse me again. He's given a chance to come back. Try that again. To met out his revenge, and then once his revenge is complete, that he would go back into his eternal rest. But so a short-lived kind of vigilante there as well. And then Luke Cage. If you haven't been watching Luke Cage on Netflix, great show. It's that sort of idea that you have these powers, you have this ability that's been given to you forcefully by accident, and you don't want them, and you try to stay out of the public eye. You don't want to be a hero, but certain circumstances kind of drive you into becoming a hero, and you begin to use those abilities that you were given, whether forcefully, whether you wanted them or not, to try to help out those other people and the places that you love. So there's a couple other things I want to touch on about vigilantism and creating your character in a setting like Vigilante Hack or Vigilante City, and that is that there's this idea of secrecy, this idea of duality between almost every hero, every vigilante. The idea that you have two personas, that you are a normal person by day and a vigilante by night, a masked superhero by night. We see that in almost every vigilante story, except for maybe Luke Cage, but all the rest of those, maybe the Punisher as well too, but almost every other sort of vigilante, there's that sort of duality in their character. There's that two-sided part of the coin where on one side they're just a normal person living a normal job, or living a normal life, working a normal job, and on the other side they are putting on this suit or putting on some sort of a cover and going out and becoming this hero. So there's a little teaser. Like I said, this is going to be the beginning of a series of sort of adventure and campaign building for the Vigilante Hack and Vigilante City, which both produced by Bloat Games. I'll put a link down below to their website and their Facebook page and stuff as well. Eric Bloat and Josh Palmer and all the guys over there at Bloat Games and all the people that were a part of Vigilante Hack and the people that were part of the Vigilante City that I was honored to be a part of working with them. Great stuff. If you're looking, I think this is going to be the quintessential sort of vigilante street level superhero role-playing game. Whether you choose to do the Hack version, which is based again on the Black Hack by David Black, if you prefer that version, that version available too, or you can jump in soon when it hits the market, when it hits the public, the Vigilante City, which is an OSR based game based upon original D&D as well. So whatever system you kind of prefer, there's a hack for it, or there's a vigilante game for it. So until next time, when we hit up, we're going to talk about campaign settings. We're going to talk about the city next time in the street level superhero idea series. But until then, I'm Questwise, and we're out.